So the city of Sidi Ifni was incorporated into the Spanish Empire in 1860. The following decades of the Franco-Spanish collaboration resulted in the establishment and the extension of the Spanish protectorate south of the city. Spanish influence obtained international recognition after the Berlin Conference of 1884. So in 1946, the region's various coastal and even inland colonies were all consolidated into Spanish West Africa. And those same inland and coastal colonies were now vying for independence in a post-World War II world and post-Scramble for Africa world. So when Morocco regained independence from France and Spain in 1956, the country expressed keen interest in all Spanish remaining colonial possessions in Morocco, claiming that they were all historically and geographically all part of Moroccan territory. Sultan Mahmud or Mahmud V encouraged efforts to recapture the lands and personally funded anti-Spanish conspirators, Moroccan insurgents, and even indigenous Sahari rebels or Swahili rebels, which would also come to bite them back in the ass in the 80s, but they were all ready to claim Ifni back to Morocco. Violent demonstrations against Spanish rule erupted in Ifni on the 10th of April 1957, following all civil strife and even widespread killings of those loyalists to Spain. So in response, Generalissimo Franco, while he was still alive, could dispatch 2 battalions of the Spanish Legion, Spain's elite fighting force, to El Alihun, Sedegu El Hamra in June. There we go. In June. There we go. So Spanish military mobilization resulted in the Royal Moroccan Army conventing and converging near Ifni. So on the 23rd of October 1957, 2 villages on the outskirts of Sidi Ifni, Gadamoni and Boz Ergozun, were occupied by 1,500 Moroccan soldiers, or the Mujahideen. So the encirclement of Ifni was the beginning of the Ifni War. 2 more Legion battalions reached Spain and Spanish Sahara before the opening of hostilities. The Spanish military's mobilization resulted in the Royal Moroccan Army converging near Ifni. So on the 23rd of October 1957, 2 villages on the outskirts of Sidi Ifni, Godamon or Gulimain and Boz Irgozun, were occupied by 1,500 Moroccan soldiers, or the Mujahideen. So the encirclement of Ifni was the beginning of the Ifni War, and 2 more Legion battalions reached Spanish Sahara before the opening of hostilities. So on the 21st of November, Spanish intelligence in Ifni reported that the attacks were imminent by the Moroccan soldiers operating out of Tarfutu. So 2 days later, Spanish lines of communication were cut, and a force of 2,000 Moroccans stormed Spanish garrisons and armories in and around Ifni. So although the Moroccans' drive into the Sidi Ifni was easily repulsed, 2 nearby Spanish outposts were abandoned in the face of enemy attacks, and many others remain under heavy siege. So Tulin. So at Tulini, 60 Toreros de Ifni, located and locally recruited indigenous infantry for Spanish officers and specialist personnel, struggled to hold off a force of several hundred Moroccan soldiers. So on the 25th of November, a release attempt was actually authorized by the Spanish government. 5 CASA-211 bombers, Spanish-built variants of the Heinkel HE-11, 111, bomb enemy positions, while the equal number of CASA-352 transport planes, Spanish-built versions of the Junkers Ju-52-3M, so interesting, dropped a force of 75 paratroopers on the outposts of Ifni. So on the 3rd of December, soldiers of the Spanish Legion and the 6th Battalion, or the 5th Brandina, arrived, breaking the siege and retaking the airfield from the Moroccans. All military and civilian personnel were evacuated overland to Sidi Ifni. Talata. The relief of Talata was actually less successful. Leaving Sidi Ifni on the 24th of November, aboard several old trucks, a platoon of Spanish Legion paratrooper battalions under Captain Oretzi de Zarate made slow progress through the difficult terrain of the Maghreb. This problem was actually compounded by frequent Moroccan ambushes and even guerrilla bands, which by the next day had several men wounded and forced the Spaniards off of the road. So on the 26th of November, food ran out. The Spanish, low on ammunition, resumed their advance to Afrendo, only to dig in again in the face of repeated enemy attacks. Rations were dropped by air, but the Spanish casualties continued to mount. One of the dead was Captain Oretse de Zarate himself. So on the 2nd of December, a column of infantry, among them was the erstwhile defenders of Tolete, or Tilete, broke through the Moroccan lines and drove the enemy off. The survivors of the platoon and the paratrooper detachment reached Sidi Infi once more on the 5th of December. The company had suffered 2 dead and 14 wounded. The siege of Sidi Infi itself. So the initial Moroccan attack was generally successful. So in the space of a fortnight, the Moroccans and their tribal allies had asserted control over most of Ifni, so isolating the inland Spaniard units from the capital. Simultaneously, attacks had been launched through the Spanish Sahara and Sahari, overrunning garrisons and ambushing convoys and even patrols, kind of like the Vietnam. This is Spain's Vietnam, and their only colony, so yeah, I gotta give them Vietnam, right? So consequently, Moroccan troops resupplied and greatly reinforced them. So they tried to surround and besiege Sidi Infi, hoping to incite a popular uprising and Moroccan nationalism inside the borders. However, the Moroccans underestimated the strength of the Spanish defenses. Supplied by the sea by the Spanish Navy or the Naval des Espagnols, and protected by kilometers of trenches and forward outposts, Sidi Infi boasted 7,500 defenders on the 9th of December 1957, proving to be impenetrable and untangible and impregnable, impregners, right? The siege will last until June 1958 though, and it was uneventful and relatively a bloodless siege as they just hoped for a popular Moroccan nationalist uprising, as Spain and Morocco both concentrated resources on the Saharan theaters of the Ifni War, which was actually about Ifni and not the Sahara itself, but go off Morocco and Spain. So in January 1958, Morocco redoubled its commitment to the Spanish campaign, reorganizing all of its army units into the Spanish territory as the Sahara Liberation Army, or the SLA. So on the 12th of January, a division of the Sahara Liberation Army attacked the Spanish garrison at El Elyon. Beaten back and forced into retreat by the Spaniards though, the army then turned its efforts to the southeast where there were much more stuff to get. Another opportunity presented itself the next day in Echira though, where 2 companies of the 13th Legion Battalion were conducting a reconnaissance mission. So slipping unseen into the large dunes near the Spanish positions, the Moroccans opened fire, ambushed the legionnaires struggling to maintain their cohesion, driving off the attack with mortars and even small arm fires. The 1st platoon stubbornly denied ground to the Moroccans until heavy losses forced them to withdraw. Bloody attacks continued until nightfall and were fiercely resisted by the Spanish, who inflicted heavy casualties on them as well. By nightfall, the Moroccans were too scattered and too depleted of men, women, and resources to really continue their assault on Ifni and the southern theater, and retreated into the darkness. The last campaign. So in February 1958, finally the French are here, a Franco-Spanish, not Franco the leader, but Franco as in France, combined force launched an offensive that broke up the Moroccan Liberation Army in that territory. Between them, France and Spain deployed a joint air fleet of 150 planes. The Spanish were 9,000 strong and the French were 5,000 strong, and that would correlate to 14,000 men. Right. So first of all, with the Moroccan mountain strongholds in Tantan, bombed from oblivion and bombed from above and rocketed from below. The Liberation Army suffered 150 dead and abandoned their position. So on the 10th of February, the 4th, the 9th, and the 13th Spanish Legion battalions organized a motorized group and drove off the Moroccans from Echira and advanced to Tarfoudat and Soumara. or Samara. The Spanish army at El Oliene, in conjunction with the French forces at Fort Gourand, struck the Moroccan army on the 21st of February 1958, destroying the Saharan Liberation Army and the concentrations between Bir Nazaran and Usret. Usret. My bad. I was trying to make it sound too Moroccan. Anyway, so on the 2nd of April 1958, one day after April Fool's Day, the governments of Spain and Morocco signed the Treaty of Erin de Caranta, which was named after the large bay in the area at the time. Morocco obtained the region of Tarafaya, or Cape Juby, between the river of Dara, parallel 24 degrees by 40 latitude, which excluding the colonies of Sidi Infi and Spanish Sahara. So Spain retained possession of Ifni until 1969, while under some international pressure and Resolution 2072 by the United Nations in 1965, it returned the territory to Morocco. Spain kept control of Spanish Sahara until 1975 in the Green March, which promoted the signing of the Madrid Accords with Morocco and Mauritania as well. It withdrew from the territory in 1976, and the last days of Francoism was on their way out as well, and Western Sahara was partitioned between Morocco and Mauritania. So that is pretty much the Ifni War. Sorry if it was a short war. I know you guys like long stuff, but it is what it is. So I will edit this in a bit, but not too bad. Just trying to really read slowly. So I'm gonna still edit it because I did believe I did a pretty good job on reading slow. Just more of the thing of trying to keep that slowness in vibe. So not too bad. I would keep it. It was not too bad. I really concentrated on trying to let the words at least get a little breath and then go on to the next word. So it's all coming together, guys. So with that said, I'm going to leave the bedroom. Tomorrow's video would be a proper video. We're just gonna keep going down the road until I can get something working. I'm gonna sending the form Thursday or Friday, but Thursday. I'm going for Thursday because Friday I want to try and start doing that weekend big thing. So we have 2 weeks on the board. One of my friends have joined already, so more than likely 2 weeks before they call me back in. So very, very thankful for that. They're recruiting. They're really going for it. They're really going for it this month. So hopefully I can get in as well. But with all that said, if you didn't catch on, well, yeah. But I would really have concrete details and tell you what was happening in the future. When I get called back in, I will tell you what is to be and what is not to be. But for right now, we are positive, we're hopeful, and we'll be on the sea soon, my guys. So anyway, with that said, hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something, and yeah, I think that's pretty much me. Spanish words are not my fault. Blame the Arab and Spanish words. As they say in Spain, ole! Adios, amigos. Goeras. No, Goeras is Portuguese. Hormusas, hormusos, hormus. Bye. Oh yeah, and don't lease your African colony to Spain because they're really grudgy about holding up an empire which they were the greatest in the world and really want to keep on the remnants of one small strip of land. And yeah, don't ally yourself with the Swahilis because they want their land back. So that kind of bite you in the ass is like kind of aiding the Taliban, you know. So anyway, no, that comes off as wrong, but you know what I mean. Like your friend today will be your enemy tomorrow. So just be careful who you invest in. Okay. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Learn something, of course.